Hello and welcome to Creative EdMo. Today we are here with a new video, The Starting Point. I hope you are enjoying our lessons. Please do communicate with us through comments, and if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. It will encourage us immensely. Few days back, on 18th June, India lost its sports legend, Milkha Singh. It was a tragic loss. Today, the chapter we are going to discuss is a tribute to this great legend who was known as the Flying Sikh. The chapter is titled The Starting Point. It has been taken from the book The Race of My Life by Milkha Singh and Sonia Sanwalka. So let's read and understand the starting point from where the journey of this Flying Sikh began. Before we begin with the actual chapter, we are going to discuss some information given about Milkha Singh in your book. In order to make this factual information easier for you to remember, I have presented it in the form of notes. So let's begin. Milkha Singh, also known as the Flying Sikh, is a former Indian track and field sprinter. Former means previous. Track and field is the general name. It includes sports like running, jumping and throwing. And sprinter is a person who takes part in short, fast races. He represented India in the Commonwealth Games in 1958 and the Summer Olympic Games of 1956, 1960 and 1964. So Milkha Singh participated in these international sports competitions and represented India. I'm sure you guys must be watching Olympics and other events. What a moment of pride it is when we see our country's players participating in such events. And if they win medals, how happy and proud we feel, isn't it? So at a time when India was hardly known for its sports achievements, Milkha Singh represented India in these international events. As a child, he used to run 10 kilometers to school and back. So running long distances came naturally to him. So he was physically active since childhood, running as much as 10 kilometers every day. Amazing, isn't it? In his youth, he joined the army where he was introduced to running as a sport. So he never knew that running could be a sport also. Having found his calling on the track, Milkha Singh went on to win several accolades for India at various international events. To find one's calling means to discover one's true passion or profession. So he found that his true passion was on track, that is running. Once he started running as a sports person, he won many awards. Accolade means award. He is best remembered for his 4th place finish in the 400 meters final at the 1960 Olympic Games. His 4th place time of 45.73 seconds became the Indian national record then and was held for almost 40 years. So in such races, even 0.01 second can make a lot of difference. So he completed the 400 meters race in 45.73 seconds. And for 40 years, no Indian could break this record. Now, India has never won a medal in track and field in Olympics. The fact that Milkha Singh came so close to winning the bronze medal makes him such an inspiration for everyone. 3 fortunate incidents that occurred in January 1953 when I was a new recruit in the army changed the course of my life. Recruit means a person who has recently joined the armed forces. The course of my life here means the direction of my life. So when Milkha Singh had just joined the army, there were 3 fortunate incidents. Fortunate incidents means events that brought good luck. So 3 events that brought good luck and happiness in Milkha Singh's life occurred in January 1953 and it changed his life. After the morning roll call one Saturday, there was an announcement that a 6-mile race was to be held the next day. Like how your teachers take attendance, similarly in army it's called the roll call. Often in school assembly important announcements are made, isn't it? So in the same way it was announced after the morning roll call that there would be a race competition. Mile is roughly around 1.6 kilometers. So the race was going to be 6 miles. All 500 recruits would participate in this event. The top 10 would be exempted from fatigue duty and be given a glass of milk every day during the training period. Now fatigue is a feeling of being tired, isn't it? But here it means fatigue duty means duties such as cleaning and cooking carried out in fatigues. Fatigues means loose clothes instead of uniforms. So of course recruits didn't like the fatigue duty, and being exempted from fatigue duty means that they would not have to perform these tasks. Exempted means excused from doing a particular duty. Okay, so all 500 recruits were supposed to participate, and whoever won, that is the top 10, the reward, or you can say the motivation, was that they would not have to perform the fatigue duty. And what's more, they would be given a glass of milk every day during the training period. Now you might think, what kind of prize is this? A glass of milk, isn't it? But in those times, it must have been quite something, especially because many people who joined army were not that rich. A glass of milk was something like a luxury, and it was quite a reward for them along with the exemption from the fatigue duty. The next morning, we reported at the starting line. Starting line means from where the race would start, wearing canvas shoes, vests and khaki shorts. These are the canvas shoes. And these are the khaki shorts. Okay, and vest is the plain innerwear that is worn under the shirt. Now such clothes were suitable because they had to run 6 miles. Also, this is what the army recruits wore in the ground. The whistle blew and we set off. So the whistle was the signal, and as soon as the whistle blew, they started the race. Set off means to begin. Filled with a sense of mission, I ran as fast as I could. So sense of mission is a feeling that he was doing a very important task. So Milkha Singh ran as fast as he could. Why? Because the reward of getting a glass of milk was a big treat for me, as I had suffered great want and deprivation in my childhood. A big treat means something that is pleasant and enjoyable, especially because it comes as a part of celebration. So getting that glass of milk was quite a big deal for him, a big treat for him. Why? Because he had suffered great want and deprivation. It means the situation of not having something due to lack of money. So Milkha Singh's family was not rich. Also, he was a victim of India's partition, lost his father during partition riots, and he ran for his life and reached the refugee camp in India where he stayed. So you can imagine what a glass of milk would mean for such a person. I took the lead in the first 2 or 3 miles. Took the lead means he was ahead of the others in the first 2 or 3 miles. I would rest a while if I felt tired and then run again when I saw others catching up. So whenever he felt tired, he rested for some time, and then when he saw others catching up, that is when he saw other players near him, he ran again to maintain his lead. Luck was with me that day and I finished 6th in the race. So with this strategy, he finished 6th in the race. The names of the 10 recruits who qualified were announced before a large gathering of almost 300 people. So the names of the winners were announced in front of everyone, almost 300 people. It must have been a proud moment, isn't it? Friends, even strangers wildly applauded and thumped me on my back, shouting Shabhash. Now to applaud means to praise by clapping. Okay, and wildly applauded means clapping with lot of excitement and energy. Now friends were appreciating, but even strangers were appreciating. Okay, so you must have noticed that while appreciating someone, people often pat the back and say well done, isn't it? Thump means like hitting or striking someone. But here it means that since the audience was quite excited, so people were thumping him on his back as a way to appreciate his performance, to say well done. Since they were excited, they would have patted him strongly, isn't it? So the word thumped has been used. Now why even strangers were appreciating? So now this is human nature. So for example, if you like cricket or hockey and you watch your favorite team win, even if you're watching on TV, you get all excited, perhaps you even start dancing, isn't it? So you have not won the match personally, but still you're happy and excited. So the same way the crowd was excited for the winners. I was quite overwhelmed by the attention and appreciation I received that night. And what was Milkha Singh's reaction? He was quite overwhelmed. Overwhelmed means he felt sudden strong emotions. Now you know about his childhood, the difficult life he had. He ran for his life during partition and the way he lived in refugee camps. And now he was getting all this attention and appreciation that he perhaps never received earlier. So this was quite a significant moment for him, very important moment for him. And this incident became the starting point of my career as an athlete. So this incident, this event, now you remember the three incidents mentioned in the beginning. So this victory, this applause, this recognition, this appreciation, this was the first incident that became the starting point of his career as an athlete. As part of our training, we had to run 6 miles every day. The ones who had qualified, now their training had started. I eagerly looked forward to the end of the practice sessions when we would get the promised glass of milk. Eagerly looked forward means waited with lot of excitement for the glass of milk that they would get after running. Now one glass of milk was his driving force, the motivation strong enough to make him run 6 miles every day. Now every time your mom asks you to drink milk and you try to make an excuse for not drinking it, remember Milkha Singh and how precious that one glass of milk was for him. Perhaps this will make you appreciate simple things in life like a glass of milk, isn't it? Okay, back to our lesson. Our instructor was Havaldar Gurudev Singh, who had been with the army for about 15 years. So the name of the instructor, the trainer was Havaldar Gurudev Singh and he had been in the army for about 15 years. Although his task was to train new recruits, he was a good runner himself and he continued to participate in races. So his work was to train new recruits. Normally we see that the trainers don't play themselves, isn't it? They merely train. But Havaldar Gurudev Singh still participated in races. So he must have been a pretty good athlete. So here's a description of Gurudev. What was he like? Gurudev was a taciturn, no-nonsense kind of a man. Taciturn means reserved, someone who doesn't speak much. And no-nonsense means serious and direct. So he was quite serious and didn't talk much. His tough exterior hid his softer, gentler side. So this means that he appeared to be very strict and harsh, although he was not really like that. So he had a softer, gentler side too. He was kind also. He would run with us during training sessions, prodding us with a danda, shouting, "Run boys, run, run for our regiment." So it's not like he would just give orders and ask them to run. He would run with them, motivating them at every step. Prodding means gently urging them to run faster. Urging means strongly advising or encouraging them. Okay, so he prodded them with a danda, with a stick. Danda means stick. So you know how earlier every teacher or instructor was shown as someone having a stick. This was supposed to make them look strict, so that students would fear them and follow their instructions, isn't it? But of course now it's not the case. But since these events happened somewhere in 1953 as mentioned in the beginning, so in that time trainers often had a danda or a stick. So regiment, now what is regiment? Regiment is a unit of soldiers, okay, in the army made up of several smaller groups. So Indian Army has many regiments like Punjab Regiment, Bihar Regiment, Rajputana Rifles, etc. It's like how you have one school and the students are divided into different houses, isn't it? So the same way, one Indian Army divided into many regiments. And like how you have inter-house competitions, so the same way competitions were there for these regiments. So Havaldar Gurudev was training them for such competitions. That's why he said, run for a regiment, so that our regiment can win, like how you want your house to win, isn't it? And how did Milkha Singh feel about him? I strongly believe that he was instrumental in motivating me to strive to become a world-class athlete. Strive means try, and instrumental means playing an important part in getting something done or achieving something. So Milkha Singh believed that he played a very significant role, a very important part in motivating him to try to become a world-class athlete. Even today, when I think of his danda, I bow my head in respect. That means Milkha Singh admired him and respected him immensely, greatly. 6 weeks into our training, the center held a cross-country race. In this event, Gurudev came first and I came second. So they had been training for 6 weeks and participated in a cross-country race. Cross-country race means a race across fields or open country and not on roads or on a track or a race track. Okay. So in this event, Gurudev came first and Milkha Singh came second. Again, I became the cynosure of all eyes. Cynosure means the center of everyone's attention, the focus of everyone's attention. Cynosure of all eyes means he got everyone's attention. Now this word is pronounced cynosure in Indian English and American English. Whereas in British English, the pronunciation of this word is quite different. It's something like cynosure. So you may hear it pronounced differently by different people. Anyway, I was 20 or 21 at that time, but looked much younger. So Milkha Singh was 20 or 21 at that time, but he looked much younger. So he looked probably like 17, 18 years old. I was asked to take part in the brigade meet in Hyderabad, where I was asked to run in the 400-meter event. Now, like how you have your sports meet, so there was going to be a brigade meet in Hyderabad. And because he came second in the cross-country race, he was asked to run in the 400-meter event. I was greatly surprised because I did not even know what 400 meters meant. I had always run 6 miles. So now 400 meters would be approximately equal to 1/4 of a mile. Okay, and Milkha Singh used to run 6 miles every day. So of course he considered 400 meters to be nothing. But it was during the brigade meet that the second incident occurred, which made me even more determined to become a good athlete. So which was this second incident that made him more determined to become a good athlete? Let's find out. In the first practice run in Hyderabad, I took off my canvas shoes and ran barefoot. So he ran without any shoes. Gurudev clapped his hands for me to start, like how you give signal by whistling. So he clapped his hands for me to start. I did and clocked 63 seconds. So he ran 400 meters in 63 seconds. I was eager to run 4 more rounds. After all, that was what I was used to, running 6 miles every day. Now Milkha Singh considered this 400 meters to be like nothing. Why? Because he was used to running 6 miles every day. So he wanted to run 4 more rounds. Okay. So running a quarter mile seemed far too easy. Quarter mile means 1/4 of a mile. As I already told you, 400 meters is approximately equal to 1/4 of a mile. So it seemed far too easy. I continued to practice for many days to improve my time, and soon I was running 400 meters in less than a minute. So he kept on practicing and his timing improved. So he could complete 400 meters in less than a minute, less than 60 seconds. The day of the meet dawned bright and clear. So the day of the meet started bright and clear. As I made my way to the stadium, I noticed some men who were surrounded by senior officers and their families. So there were some men and around them were senior officers and their families. The men wore vests with India written on them in bold letters. As you must have seen, players wearing shirts with India written like this, isn't it? So they seem to have an air of power and prestige about them. Have an air of power and prestige about them means they seemed very important and much respected and admired by others. That is why they were surrounded by senior officers and their families, probably to take autographs or something, isn't it? I was very curious to know who they were. So Milkha Singh wanted to know, he was curious to know who they were. That was my Eureka moment. Eureka moment means the time when he realized what he wanted to become in life. Now this word Eureka, you must have heard about it. This word Eureka comes from Greek and means I have found it. The use of the word refers to the exclamation by Archimedes. You must have studied about Archimedes' principle in science. So it's believed, there is a legend that Archimedes, he was he was trying to discover a method to detect the purity of gold in the crown of the king. And when he finally found how to do it, when he finally realized that he had found the method, he started saying Eureka, Eureka, and it meant I have found it. Okay. So whenever someone says that that was my Eureka moment, so that was the time he realized that what he wanted to become in his life, what was his mission. I made a solemn promise to myself that I would not rest until I earned a place in that special world too. Solemn means sincere. So he made a sincere promise to himself that he would keep on trying, he would not rest until he earned a place in that special world. So he wanted to be a part of that special world. What special world was that? The world of Indian athletes who had the privilege of representing their country. So privilege means an opportunity they were very proud about. So the players that he had seen, the ones who had an air of prestige, isn't it? So he wanted to be part of that world. So he wanted to make his country proud, and he also wanted to earn that honor of being an international player, isn't it? Representing his country at an international event. I wanted to wear blazers and vests with the name of my country written on them. So this is the blazer with the name of country written on it. So this is worn by players of India who represent India internationally. So I resolved that I would make my country proud of me. And Milkha Singh decided that day that he too wanted to be such an athlete and he wanted that his country should be proud of him. I was very nervous when we reported at the starting line before the race. This was the first time that I was competing in such an event, and that too before thousands of spectators. So this brigade meet in Hyderabad, it was a big event. So many people had come to watch this event. Spectators means people who had come to watch this meet. So Milkha Singh was quite nervous. So he had never competed in anything like this, okay, in such a big event. So he was very nervous. I had little idea about the procedures and the technicalities for such events. So that means the procedures and the technicalities means the rules of the race and the process that should be followed before the race. So he didn't have much idea about it because he was used to running, but he had not participated in such events. Okay, so he was quite nervous. I came fourth in the race. So despite his nervousness, still he managed to come fourth. I was disappointed. Why? Because obviously he wanted to win the race, but not disheartened. So even though he was disappointed, he was not disheartened. That means he had not lost hope or confidence. His resolve was still firm. He still wanted to be the best. He wanted to represent India. I had raced with star athletes, the national champion Sohan Singh of the Sikh Regiment and Pritam Singh, who had represented India in events abroad, that means internationally. So Milkha Singh tried to look at the positive side of the things, that at least he got an opportunity to compete in a race with star athletes. Performers like the national champion Sohan Singh of Sikh Regiment and Pritam Singh, who had represented India in events abroad. When I returned from Hyderabad, it was back to work as usual. So the brigade meet was in Hyderabad where the athletes from different regiments had participated, and now Milkha Singh was back to his own regiment, to his daily work as usual. And what was that daily work like? Parades, other military duties and examinations consumed my time. So his time was used up in all these things and he didn't get much time to practice. But my desire to succeed as an athlete was as strong as ever. After a day of hard work, I would carry my dinner back to the barracks. Barracks is a group of buildings in which soldiers live. So I would carry my dinner back to the barracks and hide the plate of food under my bed. While my colleagues relaxed in the evenings, I would be at the ground practicing. So his colleagues, that means his fellow recruits. So now imagine the day of an army recruit. As it is, it must be quite hectic, and whatever little time he had for eating his food and relaxing, he used it to practice. Now look at his determination, his sacrifice. I still did not know the techniques needed to run a 400-meter race, but I followed a rule of thumb. So there was no one to train him for 400-meter race, but that didn't stop him. So he followed his own technique. A rule of thumb means a practical way based on experience, though it may not be technically correct. So what was this technique? I would run one round at the highest speed possible, rest for a while and then run another one. I would complete 5 or 6 rounds and then return to my room to take a bath and have dinner. You remember he hid the plate under the bed, so he would have that cold dinner. This was my routine for many months, a secret activity that no one was aware of. And he was doing it secretly because this wasn't for the regiment. That training was over. This he wanted to do because he wanted to succeed as an athlete. He wanted to represent India, so he was practicing and trying to improve himself. One night, I was doing my regular practice rounds when Brigadier SP Vohra spotted me. Spotted me means saw me. He was on his after-dinner walk. So Brigadier went for a walk after dinner and it was then that he saw Milkha Singh. "Why are you on the grounds at this hour?" he asked sharply. So being the senior officer that he was, he asked sharply, strictly. "Sir," I said, clicking my heels and snapping to attention. So when soldiers click their heels, they make a sound by knocking the heels of their shoes together when saluting or greeting someone. That's a custom. And when soldiers snap to attention, they bring their heels together fast and stand very straight. So you must have seen this way of saluting seniors in some movie related to army. So that's the way soldiers greet their seniors. I tried to do a smart salute, though I was breathing hard and dripping sweat from every pore. So this pore is the small hole in your skin from where sweat comes out. So dripping sweat means he was sweating a lot, almost like wet with sweat. And he was breathing hard. So because he had been practicing, he had been running. "Sir," I panted. Panted means breathing with short, quick breaths, like how you will breathe after running a race. Okay, that's panting. "I am practicing for the 400-meter race." So he replied that he was practicing for the 400-meter race. "Practicing? Why are you practicing at this hour?" he asked, sounding a little astonished. So the brigadier was a little astonished, means surprised. So he wanted to know, practicing at this hour, but why? "Because I don't have time to practice during the day, sir," I replied quietly. So he stared at me, then nodded and walked away briskly. Now Milkha Singh replied honestly that he doesn't have any time to practice during the day. That is why he is practicing at this time. Now what did Brigadier say? He simply stared at him. To stare at someone is to look at someone deeply. Then nodded and walked away briskly. Briskly means quickly. I felt quite relieved that I had been let off easily. Let off means to let someone go without punishment. So Milkha Singh thought that since his secret was out, probably he might get punished for being there when he was supposed to be inside. But the brigadier didn't say anything. So Milkha Singh felt relieved, relaxed that he didn't get any punishment. This meeting led to a series of actions that I had never anticipated. So the meeting with the brigadier, where he told him that he didn't get time during the day to practice, resulted in a series of actions which Milkha Singh never expected that it could happen. What happened? The next day, the commander of my company told me that I did not have to do fatigue duty anymore. So Brigadier must have decided to help Milkha Singh. He must have been impressed by Milkha Singh's dedication. So he ensured that Milkha Singh should get time and resources to practice. I hope you remember fatigue duty, duties like cleaning, cooking. This gave me more time to practice. I was given better facilities, a nutritious diet, and special attention was paid to my grooming. Grooming means his training to become a world-class athlete. So he was given better facilities. Nutritious diet means healthy diet containing all important nutrients to increase his strength and stamina, and special attention was paid to his grooming. And all this was made possible by the brigadier. This incident, that is the meeting with the brigadier, that led to all these changes. So this incident opened up a whole new world for me, one that offered innumerable opportunities. Innumerable means many, uncountable opportunities. Okay, so this was the third and the final incident, and thus these three incidents helped Milkha Singh in realizing his dream. The chapter's title is quite apt and appropriate, the starting point. So this was a starting point for Milkha Singh, and from here he went on to earn the title the Flying Sikh, winning gold medals in Commonwealth and Asian Games, and he came so close to winning an Olympic medal. His life is an inspiration for all of us. So I hope you enjoyed reading this lesson with me. Please don't forget to communicate with me through comments. I want to hear your views. Let me know which chapter you want me to explain next. And yes, please don't forget to like and share with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.